This video will cover section 1.8 on absolute value equations. Now, if you have to remember when you're solving absolute value equations what absolute value means. And so absolute value is simply the distance of a number from 0 on the number line. And distance can never be negative. You can never go, even if you walked backward 2 feet or 10 feet or dug down in the ground 100 feet, you're still going a positive distance. You can't go, it's like you can't go negative time. Okay, so therefore, anytime you take the absolute value, it's not negative, it's positive. And the way that we know that the equation is an absolute value equation, or that they're wanting us to evaluate absolute value, are these bars right here, these two parallel bars. And what we want to find the absolute value of, or how far is what's inside those bars from 0. So if we take a look here, if I'm looking for the absolute value of 2, I'm going to go to 2 and count back to 0. So that'll be 1, 2. Alright, so that means 2 is a distance of 2 from 0. Now if I look at negative 2, so I go to negative 2 on the number line, and I count back to 0, I've gone 1, 2. Also a distance of 2 from 0. So there are always two numbers that have the same distance from 0. If I picked 4, absolute value of 4, it is a distance of 4 from 0. And negative 4 is a distance of 4 from 0. So when you're solving absolute value equations, you have to consider that there are two values that are the same distance, and therefore you're going to have to solve the equation twice. So when we look at question 1, the absolute value of 9 minus 4x equals 7. This is saying that whatever is inside of these absolute value bars is a distance of 7 from 0. Now we know, just from what we've just talked about, that 7 is a distance of 7 from 0, and negative 7 is a distance of 7 from 0. So what we need to do is find what's going to make 9 minus 4x equals 7, and what's going to make 9 minus 4x equals negative 7. So that when we take their absolute value, we get 7 as the answer. So 9 minus 4x, what's going to make that be a 7? And 9 minus 4x, what is going to make that be a negative 7? Alright, and we're going to work it out twice. Now, you're going to do the exact same thing to solve both equations. So I like to work them simultaneously, but you can work them one at a time, whatever you like to do there. Alright, so I'm going to subtract 9 from both equations, like that. That'll leave me negative 4x equals negative 2, and negative 4x equals negative 16. Then I'm going to divide by negative 4 on both equations, and that'll give me x equals 1/2 and x equals 4. On my calculator, I can check my answer. There is an absolute value. To get to absolute value, hit the math button. Alright, and then you're going to arrow over to NUM and make sure it is highlighted. And the very first option is ABS, that's absolute value. You can either press the number 1, or since 1 is highlighted, you can press enter. Notice it gives you the absolute value bars. Make sure I type it in correctly here. Alright, and then I'm going to type in the absolute value of 9 minus 4x and hit enter. Notice I get 7. Alright, and then I'm going to try the same thing with 4. So I'm going to store 4 in x. And then I can just recall using second enter, recall my absolute value. That way I don't have to retype it all. And hit enter, and I get 7. So then I know that both of my answers, 1/2 and 4, are correct. Alright, for the second one, we want to know the absolute value of 3x plus 2 equals 5. We're wanting to know what goes in x's place, so that when we take the absolute value, we find that it is a distance of 5. We know there are two numbers that are a distance of 5 from 0, 5 and negative 5. So we have to determine what's going to make x when we fill it in, that 3x plus 2 will equal 5, and what can we fill in for x so that 3x plus 2 will equal negative 5, and that then when we take the absolute value, we get 5. So we're going to work it out twice. 3x plus 2 is 5, and 3x plus 2 equals negative 5. Alright, you solve them the same way, so I'm going to go ahead and work them both. That'll give me 3x equals 3, and 3x equals negative 7. Then on both, you divide by 3. Alright, we'll get x equals 1, and x equals negative 7/3. Alright, and then we can check our answer. Alright, so first I'm going to store 1 in x. Then if you want to, you can just hit second enter and recall that absolute value, and then just go in here and type 3x plus 2. Like that. Alright, and we get 5. So that answer is good. Our other answer is negative 7/3. So I'm going to do negative 7/3. Store it in x. Recall my function. And I get 5, so then I know that this answer is good.